academic or you're a regular guy. We have to be fearless.
FrontlineTV.com. Dear brothers and sisters, let us go into the breach.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, as always, joined by Joe Rossinello, and we are going into the breach tonight. Joe Rossinello, let me say something, Joe. You and I, in the past, people can look at us, say we're a couple of angry guys, and I think we have some serious righteous anger. There's a lot of anger going on out there, a lot of anger going on out there, and it's being directed at us. And again, Joe, we're we try to emphasize everybody, we're Roman Catholic men. I mean, look, we're prepared on one level or another to deal with the persecution of the world. Okay, if you wanted to say it like that, but there's some serious anger out there, and we need to talk about it. We're here tonight on the Crusade channel, always on air and always online at crusadechannel.com. Make sure you follow Joe and I, and if you see us on social media, like, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff. Joe, Homeland Security. Now, you could say what you want, all right, but Rod Dreher, I consider to be a trusted source. Now, he's quoting, and you're going to talk about it and bring the audience into it, he's quoting a trusted source, okay, at Homeland Security. I trust Rod Dreher, okay, at the American Conservative. And what he's got to say, Joe, I got to say, it's got, not in a scared way, but it's got me in a cautious way, a little bit nervous. And I'm going to hand it over to you at the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello. This is a conversation you're going to want to stick with us with, because we're going to talk about the anger involved with the potential, we believe almost certain, overturning of Roe versus Wade. The Rainbow Mafia is exceedingly angry. Okay, and we're going to have that conversation. And we're going to talk a little bit about Father James Martin, because I think we're going to have to, in a respectful way, about Father James Martin at the end. With that, I'm handing it over to Joe Rossinello.
Well, as Joe said, Rod Dreher, for those who may not know, he writes for the American Conservative. He also wrote a fairly controversial book in the Catholic world called The Benedict Option.
I think he's the editor. I think he's the editor of American Conservative. I believe. Okay. Anyway,
But no, either way, he's involved. He basically a source. So it's not official. Let me just first say that, just to be fair. He says a very highly trusted source told him that Homeland Security has notified the bishops that there's a credible threats to the safety of Catholic churches, clergy, and bishops if the Supreme Court overturns Roe. I think it's a double-edged sword. First,
wait, real quick, Joe. Joe, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I do think it's important to include violence has been called for beginning the night such a decision is handed down. Now, again, we're deferring to Rod Dreher on this one, but I just wanted to mention it because it's important, because we're going to try to emphasize people to be vigilant, watchful, the whole 9 yards, okay? But he's being told that violence has been called for. Joe, I'm going to hand it back.
Well, I think it's a double-edged sword. One, could that be real? Absolutely. Keep this in mind. Management always drops bombs on Friday. I was waiting for it this Friday in June. Management always does that. You heard it. It's going to happen on a Friday. It could be this week. It could be the next, but it will be a Friday at 4:00 to let the weekend kind of cool it down. So keep your eye out for that. That's number one. It's just how corporate deals work. I've seen it happen time and time again over my career. That's just how it works. Anyway, as far as the threat, listen, even though it's coming from a source, I could buy that clearly. The other side of the
sword, it a little bit, Joe. It hasn't been as rampant as we thought since the leak, but we have seen some. Go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, but the other side of the sword is, could it just be I'm trying to scare the bishops as a threat, as in, hey, guys, we're coming for you. Either way, I think you have to take it definitely serious. I mean, we've already seen graffiti on churches. I think the majority of the violence that will be perpetrated against Catholics will be at statues. I've seen that in New York. Cardinal Dolan recently went to a statue of Our Lady, which was, desecrated. I think you're going to see a lot of that. There could be.
They also, Joe, real quick, they also, from the report I read, they stole a $2 million tabernacle in Brooklyn.
I think that could be for money, though. I think
What's
that was
that?
an inside job too. That's another conversation. Like who would know that that's worth $2 million
Well,
unless
just
you
because somebody is ideologically pro-abortion doesn't mean that they're not into grabbing some cash if they
two
could
two
too.
million bucks. It doesn't matter what your political ideology is. If you're a thief, you want $2 million. But that's another conversation. I mean, listen, the bishops have to take this serious. I will say this though. And again, the best polls and the best observations are in your own neighborhood. I live 12 miles outside of New York City. New Jersey is a blue state, but it's not as blue as you think. And it's not as woke as you think. And I talk to people, my neighbors, some of them are Democrats. I pick my kids up from school. I talk to people there, parents. Social issues don't drive a lot of people. I'm telling you this right now. Don't let Twitter and all of the chat rooms fool you. Social issues do not, it drives, if you look at the population of the religious, 19% of America's Catholic, probably about, I'm going to guess, between 5 and 8% of that population really, really care about the abortion issue. The other ones will say, just like when they see someone starving on TV, oh, that's real sad. Click, pass it right by. That's sad but true.
Okay, but
Same.
Joe, we are dealing. But at the end of the day, you're at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello on the Crusade channel. You are dealing with people who are exceedingly angry, Joe, that they're going to lose their right. Only in about half the country, by the way. Let's be clear. I think everybody who's listening to us on the Crusade channel knows that. Okay, you're talking about 24, 25 states that would have trigger laws either banning abortion
No, I
or
get it.
severely.
But what I
But
was
this
just
is
going to
an
say,
angry.
though,
This is
is
an
this.
angry
I
group.
get it, but I think they're angry in cities because you're going to see in cities, New York, Chicago, Boston, New Orleans, Philadelphia, LA, San Francisco. Absolutely, you'll see disruptions at mass. It's happened with Cardinal O'Connor. You'll see graffiti. You'll see statues desecrated. It even could be violent. Absolutely. But in the suburbs, this is me. Could it happen? Of course it could happen. Of course it could happen. Couple things with it. I would highly doubt it because I don't see that passion in the suburbs because people are indifferent. Joe, they don't care. I drop my kids off at a Catholic school. I talk to grandparents, I talk to parents, and sometimes we get into abortion. Some people will say, you know, I'm not for it. It's not what drives the average person. And that's sad. In the cities where the woke crazies are, oh yes,
Right.
you'll get that.
Right, Joe. I'm not saying I don't agree with you, but remember something: the media will take five ragtag pro-abortion people standing on a street corner and turn it into the biggest narrative in America. Again, we're dealing with the. I know you are. We're dealing with the reality of the situation. Now, again, I will say this though, but warnings, whether those warnings get followed through on, Joe, in the cities or in the suburbs, it is a warning to Catholics. Now, again, I've said on the show before at the front line with Joe and Joe, I've given you examples, my own personal experience dealing with the crazies down at Old St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City, where they come right up in your face. They stop short of violence, Joe. They do. They stop short of violence. They haven't gotten there yet. The most recent one was when the leak happened. This African-American female performance artist was moving in front of the Old St. Patrick's Cathedral. She was being very provocative. I will say the men there, Joe, that were blocking the door so that no one got in, the men were very good Catholic men. All they did, Joe, was they just kept praying the rosary. Okay, the crazies were all out on the street. These men kept praying the rosary. The people inside kept praying the rosary. So it was good in that way. But the threat is real. Now, I want to back up, Joe, what I just said to you, that the threat is real. Now, this is according to Dreher, all right? Rod Dreher in the American Conservative. He said, this is not a joke or an overabundance of caution. And he gives some examples. Said a pro-life organization's Wisconsin offices were set on fire after the road draft leaked, okay? Now, this I didn't know. I knew about that, Joe. This I didn't know, Joe Rossinello. Samuel Alito, who drafted the leaked opinion, has been in hiding and unable to participate in public functions because someone might attack him or even try to kill him. Now, you mentioned several times, I think, over the last couple months that you know, what limits do these people have? Are they going to try to take people out? I think you mentioned it more along the lines of Donald Trump. You said if he ever got elected again, you said you think they try to kill him. Joe, I think we have to look before 2024 to what's happening right now. I don't think these justices are safe.
I would agree.
I really
I
don't.
would agree. I'll tell you this though, I don't think that would be tolerated though. Like Joe, I know they shot Steve Scalise. I know, dude. There's certain things you can't do. You can't like where there's no toleration. You can't do that because then I'll be honest with you, it's all over. You can't shoot the
Well,
president, no
go
matter
there.
who
I
it
want
is.
you to go there. I want you to go there a little bit. I'm actually curious about that. I've heard you say that before. I think I know where you're going with that, Joe Rossinello. When you say it's over, I'm curious. I'm sure all those out there at the Crusade Channel and listening to us at the front line with Joe and Joe, because I think I know where you're going, but I'd rather you say it because I agree with you. By the way, I think that's a bridge too far.
Yeah,
Is that
way
the
too
phrase?
far.
But what do you foresee? Let's say, God forbid, let's say ACB, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, or Alito, or Thomas were harmed in some serious way or killed. Okay, what do you think would happen? Because I don't know.
Well, let's put it this
I
way.
would
I
value
think
your
it would
opinion.
be seriously. I mean, I don't know. I just think like you can't get away with that. I mean, I will say this: that leak. This is the United States of America. How hasn't that been found out? Like, in all honesty, like it's such a
Well, there should be
limited.
a
Like, if I was a
prosecution.
cop, dude, there's probably 50 people who could have made it. Like, dude, I would find that out. I'm gonna be honest. I mean, I work in an investigative capacity, in a legal capacity on Wall Street. Dude, I would have found that out in 2 days. 2 days. I mean, in all honesty, it's a pool of 50 people. You interview people, you look at emails, you look at
Right.
chats, internal chats. You have all that
So all you
access.
got to do is pull up some. If you're the FBI, all you got to do is pull up
So
some
my
phone
point is,
records. You're
are
going to have
they
the guy like that.
yeah, I mean, I'm just talking about like what like it's 50 people,
Right.
give or take. Why don't they know? I mean, listen, but there's certain things you can't do. Like you can't kill the president. No matter who he is or who she is. Dude, you kill the president, it's on. No matter who it is, whether it's Barack Obama or Donald Trump. You kill the president, dude, bad move. It's on. Everyone, like, you can't kill a Supreme Court justice, whether it's a liberal one or a conservative one. You can't do it.
Right.
I don't think my thing is this: there is going to be violence in cities. I absolutely think, in all honesty, in liberal cities, all the biggies across America, I think it'll be a lot less frequent in the suburbs because, again, even Democrats in suburbs, they're not woke crazy people, dude. They're really not. Like when you talk to people, I do. When I cut my lawn, dude,
Mm-hmm.
listen, it's not what drives people. The fringes are not in suburbs. And frankly, also, what's in suburbs, this is across America, are families. What are they concerned about? The biggies, the economy, the gas, the police, uh,
Well,
like
Joe,
their
listen.
jobs.
We live in New Jersey, and we both know a lot of people, and have met a lot of people. I have family in, let's say, for argument's sake, suburban Essex County, a liberal town. Let's say, for argument's sake, like let's say, West Orange or Livingston. No offense to those living in West Orange or Livingston, we've seen it. The rest of the world, for the liberals in the suburbs, exists out there. Come into my neighborhood, and I'm gonna have a problem with it. Okay. Those people that were burning down those cities, Joe, that you mentioned a couple years ago. Okay. If they were going down Livingston Avenue, okay.
Oh, the police are
And
all over it, Joe. They're not
no,
even,
and
even,
no. And my point is, those who are sympathetic to, let's say, BLM and Antifa, at least in their heart, as far as political ideology, they would have been the first ones on the phone with 911.
Joe, even during the heat of that, certain towns had BLM parades. Dude, they were no different than the Memorial Day parade, peaceful as hell. High school, like I don't like what I'm saying is even 12 miles outside of New York, there's no problem with police in my town. Zero. It's the same exact
What we
I'm
brought up.
just being honest.
No, I
And even
agree. I know what you're saying.
it's
We
cities.
brought up
And the
before
woke
about
crazies, like to be honest with you, I think they're a lot louder on Twitter than they actually are, and there's cracks in it already. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it already. There are cracks in the woke Netflix. Netflix pushed back of all people.
Well, Joe, not well. Let's be clear. Their stock was about $800 a
But
share,
that's my point.
and they got
It but
shaved
that's my
down to
point.
about
People are not, and
$186 a
the
share.
next topic we're gonna talk about too, about like these schools. Dude, you could be pro gay rights and still not want your daughter to shower with a boy.
Well, we're gonna get. I
And,
want to
and
stay
I'm
on this
just
because
saying,
I
like
know.
normal, quote unquote, functioning people who don't live in bubbles in like fancy towns or fancy sections of cities, dude, they're not on board. They're not on board.
Right.
This is a loser on so many fronts with normal people, the press and the chat rooms and the Twitters, which is all, to be honest with you, in many cases, just a mirage. When you step through it and you talk to people in your neighborhood, I live in New Jersey, 12 miles. I could see the skyline from the top of my hill. I talk to my neighbors, Democrats. If you said to some of them, yeah, you know, are you for killing a baby in the third trimester? Dude, they'd be like, what are you, crazy?
But
What
they're
are you friggin'?
pro-choice people.
I'm just saying. And
I
if
know
you
what you
said,
mean.
are you for a 14-year-old girl showering with a boy in high school? They'd be like, what are you, nuts? What are you,
Right.
freaking crazy? These are Democrats. It's a loser. And as far as violence in cities, no question about it. Absolutely. In New York, you're going to see instances. They're going to spray paint stuff. They're going to disrupt masses at St. Patrick's. They're going to do all of that. No doubt about it.
Well, I like the way Rod Dreher put it in the American Conservative. He said we saw. Now this is a quote from him in his article that we're getting into here at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello on the Crusade channel, and we are way in the breach. Dreher says, and then we all know this quote: "We saw in the mostly peaceful burning streets 2 years ago what the left in this country is capable of." Now, this is the part that I want your comment on, Joe. And what the ruling class in this country will excuse or even support. To me, Joe, I agree with you. It'll probably happen mostly in the cities. There'll be some skirmishes. We mentioned Nutley, New Jersey a few times. They tried to do it in Nutley, which is a more conservative suburb of Newark, okay, as opposed to, let's say, Livingston, which is a more liberal suburb of Newark, New Jersey. But I think that's the important part. Joe, we're dealing with elites. We're dealing with the ruling class. We're dealing with those who really run this country, and they will, you know as well as I do, because they have, and that's what he's referring to in the article Rod Dreher is referring to, is this is what they'll excuse or even support. And Joe, let's bring it back real quick to the Catholic Church. You know damn well, we mentioned on this show before, Joe, why are they going after? Now, Dreher is charitable. He mentions the evangelicals, and there are many evangelicals like Alveda King and others who work closely with Catholics in the pro-life movement. Alveda King, Dr. Martin Luther King's niece, works with Father Frank Pavone, many evangelicals. So they'll be under target too. But why? Why are they targeting the Catholic Church? Why do we have to be on guard? Why is Homeland Security issuing a warning, Joe? I'll go back to it and I'll hand it over to you, because Charles Krauthammer and Glenn Beck both said, two non-Catholics, both said, you could thank the Catholic Church for the reason why abortion never went away after Roe versus Wade. The Catholic Church and the Catholic faithful kept this issue alive for 50 years, Joe Rossinello. 50 years. And now we're about to get everything that we fought for 50 years. And these people can't stand it. And they, unlike the peaceful Catholics who for 50 years knew babies were being slaughtered, Joe, and they marched on the streets of Washington, D.C. and other places peacefully, prayerfully, okay? And now, because of all those prayers are probably going to be answered, at least as far as Roe getting overturned, okay? And then going back to the states. But there's the difference for you. The other side, anger, Joe, anger and violence. And it'll be directed at Catholic Church because it's been because of the church that this issue has been kept alive and is about to be reversed. Am I wrong, Joe, in my assessment?
Well, clearly, I mean, listen, outside of January 6th, has there been any violence? We're not talking about the shootings. I'm talking about like against the woke class by the MAGA movement.
Right.
I mean, what I will say is this, and mark my words: if even say it's not Trump, say it's DeSantis, because I don't think Joe Biden is going to win. I don't think he can. Uh, they will lash out, and the press won't cover it. Even these instances that already happened, desecrating a statue of Our Lady, spray painting a church, why aren't they hate crimes? Why
They should
isn't that
be.
treated as a hate
They
crime?
should be.
Why isn't it on the news? And that's where the elites, you mentioned the elites, they're not going to cover it.
Right.
They're not going to cover it the way they should. And that's just a fact. If you don't think that, you're in denial. They don't. I could remember when, like, you'd see, like, in synagogues, and they should be prosecuted for hate crimes. I am not for that. That's disgraceful. It's
Sure.
disrespectful. It's just as disrespectful for a Catholic church. The media should be all over it. They're simply not, and they're not going to be.
Right.
They're not going to be. They will excuse it. It will be like Benghazi. It'll be on the 35th page of the New York Times. I mean, and that is a fact.
Does
And
anybody
that's a
get to the
sad
30?
reality. But I will tell you this: violence is the action of a loser. It's like when people start calling people names, you have nothing to say.
Right.
Violence is the action of a loser. And I will tell you this: the more they do that, the more their side will go right back into their holes.
Well, Joe, that's why. That's one of the main reasons why, obviously, they're very threatened. Yes, we're talking about the political left at the front line with Joe Pasillo and Joe Rossinello in the breach. But that's why they're so threatened by social media, or at least as far as, let's say, that recently we know Elon Musk, he's looking to take over Twitter. That's why they got to control that narrative. Because if you look at, let's say, what it is that they do, and on a free platform, Joe, there's going to be people that are going to be posting what these animals, and that's what they are to a large degree. When you act and you allow your emotions to govern your reason, you're basically acting like an animal, okay? An irrational human being, okay? That's why they need to control the narrative, and that's why they need to control all the media. I like the way, by the way, Joe Rossinello, I like the way Rod Dreher puts it. He alluded in the article to what you're saying. He said, quote, our media, I like this. Tell me if you agree. He says, our media is going to apply the law of merited impossibility to Catholic churches trashed by pro-abortion radicals. And what he means by that is, quote, this is what he's saying you'll hear them say. Oh, that'll never happen. And when it does, you bigots deserved it. Now, that's Dreher talk. And I think that that's exactly right. I think that's what the elites are going to. Now, when you control the media, you could get away with that. But how are you going to control that if, let's say, for argument's sake, a bunch of crazies go into a Catholic church? I mean, look, Joe, we know what happens in the world. Over the weekend, somebody posted in a chat room I'm in, okay, that 50 Catholics were killed in a church bombing in Nigeria. So just because it happens halfway around the world doesn't mean it can't happen here. Am I wrong about that?
Well, clearly it could, but I'm going to be honest with you. You can't say that statement publicly, even on MSNBC. You sue them.
Which one?
Right now, if
Which
someone
statement,
called,
Joe?
what's this?
Which statement are you
call
referring
it a bigot. You deserved it. I'm going to be honest with you. If they said that to me in a corporate setting, I'll be honest, I'd say, I'll see you in court, and I'll bet you I win. I can believe what the Catholic Church teaches in the public square, and you cannot call me a bigot. I will sue you, and I will win. I'm going to tell you, as of right now, I will win. And I'm not going to say a word back to you other than this. I want my check in green, and I want the ink in black, because I'm winning. It's my religious belief. And I can say that abortion is a sin, and I can be against it, and I could say it publicly just as equally as I can say, and that's even in the corporate setting. As long as I am not proselytizing in the corporate setting, as long as I am not being mean or nasty or or just simply, if someone asked me, what is your belief on marriage? Listen, I'm Catholic, and my belief is that a man and a woman get married. I believe in traditional marriage. You don't believe in same-sex marriage? My religion prevents me from believing in that. Dude, you can't fire me for that.
That's
If
right.
you do, I'm suing you.
But you
I-
do know, though, Joe Rossinello, but they again, they know what the argument you just made is a constitutional argument where the First Amendment protects your individual right to the free. Remember, Joe, you don't have a freedom to worship like Obama said. Okay, that's a slick leftist way of interpreting the First Amendment. You have the right to the free exercise of your religion, which means if somebody asks you around the water cooler, well, dude, what do you think of gay marriage? I had this conversation at work several years ago, a few years ago. It was before my shift, and somebody said something. I commented, and somebody looked at me and said, "Well, you don't believe in gay marriage?" I said, "Absolutely not." No, now nobody did anything. I don't think anybody in that setting was actually gay, but I didn't get any backlash from it. But that's to me totally acceptable. You asked me a question, I gave you an answer. I accept gay marriage. No, I don't believe in gay marriage, not even a little bit. But now let's pivot because you brought it up. If you don't mind, Joe Rossinello, we're talking about anger at the front line with Joe Pasillo and Joe Rossinello, not our anger. Joe, I think most of the time people expect us to be angry. We are not angry. But we do have to be, according to Rod Dreher, and I believe Rod Dreher. I do not think he would have published this article if his source was not solid. We need to be vigilant. We need to be vigilant as Catholics, especially in our churches. Okay, and again, Joe and I are providing what we believe is good reason for our heeding this warning and being cautious. I, for one, Joe, moving forward, I think I'm going to sit in back of church just in case. I'm not looking to do anything crazy. I just would block somebody from coming in or block the aisles in some way while somebody hopefully calls the police and just have people just peacefully removed. But here's the thing. Let's move on to Chris Bedford in the Federalist. Okay. Came across this article, The New Gay Left, and how pride, again, we're talking about anger, how pride became an angry, vicious movement. Joe, if you look at this crowd, this movement, okay, this whatever you want to call it, I call it the Rainbow Mafia. All right, everybody knows what we're alluding to there. Joe, they're angry. Joe, they're really, really angry. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Well, I read the notes you sent over, and I mean, some of the the bullets talk about some of these school districts or possibly the federal government using leverage on schools that don't comply. I could see that, but I'm going to tell you this: this is a loser because there's certain issues that are apolitical that affect people. Money is one. I can't eat. I'm a Democrat, but I can't eat. So therefore, I'm not going to vote for them or my taxes. This is a big New Jersey issue. Every once in a while, Republicans win in New Jersey. The driver is property tax.
Property
I
taxes.
can't
Yeah.
pay my taxes and live. So even though I'm a Democrat, I'm not voting. Okay, children, your children. It's an
Right.
apolitical issue. It crosses, like, it doesn't matter. Like, when you start saying that my 14-year-old girl has to shower with a boy, Democrats, not crazy people, and that's a small percentage. Don't listen to Twitter. Talk to people in your neighborhood. Dude, they're not having that. They're
Right.
not having that. If you're going to tell people, Democrats in California, that my daughter who plays field hockey has to play with the boy, they'll be like, get the frig out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here. It's
Right.
a loser. This is them overplaying their hand. I'll tell you what a winner is. I'm going to be honest with you. Gay marriage is a winner.
I know. It's a
It's a
shame.
winner. And I'm not talking as a Catholic. I'm talking purely as an objective, like a political analysis. It's a winner. It's going
Because it's
nowhere. It's going
a live
nowhere.
and let live. And
But
again,
exactly. But that's not this.
right. No,
This is different. And I'm telling you right now, I actually think this could break the teachers' unions. This could potentially also their hold on America. This is one of those issues where people Democrats in liberal states are going to basically be like, you're out of your mind.
Well,
I
Joe,
am not for this, and I'll never be for it.
well, look at what happened. I mean, you have to remember something. I mean, Virginia recently in the last several elections is purple leaning blue. They just elected not a Republican, by the way, a conservative Republican, a conservative
And why was
lieutenant
that?
governor. All right. Because of what you're saying.
A
Now,
girl
again,
was raped.
a girl was raped, and on the one hand, which leaving that aside, even if the school district, Joe, and the school board let it be known, it still is a loser for them because their whole narrative, that's not going to happen. That's not, well, it happened. Okay. It did. A boy raped a girl. A boy pretending to be a girl raped a girl. The father went to the school district. So on the one hand, Joe, it's the act itself. And then on the other hand, it was the shadiness of the school board because they hid it. They did not tell the parents. And what did they do? Okay. As you said, Joe, it's such a loser that they turned the purple/blue state into dyed-in-the-wool red, as far as I'm concerned. Because you got to remember something. Not everybody who's pro-life, or excuse me, there are many pro-choice people that voted for Glenn Youngkin in that gubernatorial election, who voted for Winsome Sears as lieutenant governor. I forgot the gentleman's name who won as the attorney general, who's also conservative Republican. A lot of people who identify on some issues with the left, they might consider themselves to be pro-choice. On this issue, as you described, okay? And Joe, let me tell you something. These are also people who probably are indifferent to gay marriage.
That's exactly. They're for like the proverbial gay rights, but it's again, it crosses political lines. I can't eat. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like your policy,
Right.
I can't eat, or don't touch my kids. Like that is one of those things. And that's why I'll be honest with you. They don't listen to reason.
Well,
A-
they don't listen to
And
reason because they're not, Joe Rossinello. They're not, while you're listening to us at the front line with Joe and Joe on the Crusade channel, always on air and always online at crusadechannel.com, the last live radio station standing, is the bottom line is, Joe, they're not only not listening to reason, they're angry. Now, that's Bedford's argument, okay? And you highlighted some of it for our audience who's listening to us here, okay? Just to be clear, you mentioned if parents don't want boys playing on the girls' sports teams, okay, they're going to lose federal funding. If parents don't let little boys go into girls' bathrooms, okay, they're going to cut off school lunches, okay? And here's the thing. If this is according to Chris Bedford, in fact, if parents in any way interfere with trans activist demands for how local schools should operate, all federal taxpayer support will be cut off. I like the way he puts it after he wrote that, Joe. He said, "Welcome to June or Pride Month." All right.
Joe,
Well, it's
I'll
more
be
like,
honest with
Joe,
you.
it's
That's a
anger month.
loser. That
It's
if they
anger
took
month.
it to a degree, they'll all be voted out. I'll be honest with
Do
you.
they
If
care?
I was,
Joe, let me cut you off. Do they care about it? It doesn't seem like they care about being voted out because they know eventually they'll be voted back in. And
well,
and one other
they
thing I want
care
to throw to
about
you.
power, Joe, and what keeps people in power in New Jersey are the unions. And
Well,
I'm going
that's
to tell you,
Jersey.
I'm just telling you, and I'll tell you this: if they pushed that far, they wouldn't be in power long. That is I'm telling you, that's a loser. This is a loser. I don't see it being successful. I really don't. Because people of goodwill love their kids, and if any person outside, no, I'm not even going to. Any person who looks me in the face and is cool with their 14-year-old daughter showering with a boy in high school, I'll be honest with you, you're insane. You are insane.
Joe, do you know in some parts of this
And there's
country,
not that. I think that population, Joe, I'll be honest with you, if you get past the chat rooms, if you get past the Twitter crowd, is very small.
well,
Honest
Joe,
to
how
God.
many times have you said we're dealing with those people who push this nonsense? Their kids aren't going to these schools.
No,
That
that's
are
a
allowing
given.
this
That's an
nonsense.
absolute fact. That's an
Okay.
absolute fact. That's an
Listen, you
absolute
get the
fact.
multimillionaire parent, they're going to go to the school. They're going to go right to the school and they say, look, I got a little 13-year-old girl. I don't really care about all this stuff. I pay lip service to it out in the public. Don't let a boy go into her locker room. And that's exactly what they do. Or he goes, I'll not give you any money. I'll pull my daughter out of this school. They're not worried about it. But it's always the same thing with elitists, Joe. Okay. What they want for you, not for themselves.
Oh, that's a
I
given.
forgot. Somebody told the story. I think it was E. Michael Jones. I'm butchering the story, but he told the story about how one of the WASP elitists, this is going back decades. Again, I'm butchering it, but the idea was that the daughter of the WASP elitist came home and said, well, I'm pregnant. I'm going to have an abortion. And the WASP elitist looked at his daughter and said, no. We push that for other people. We want really big families. You're having the child, but we want others not to have children. Again, I butchered the story, but I'm just trying to relay what the mentality is. Let's get back to this for a second, this Chris Bedford article, okay? We're talking about anger. And again, this is really what it comes down to. Joe, listen, this isn't, as Bedford puts it, this is not, let's say 40, 50 years ago where people want equal rights. Hey, Joe, let's be clear with everybody out there listening to us, okay? You're gay and you apply for a job in my company, okay? I don't need the law to tell me not to discriminate against you. I'm not going to discriminate against you, okay? I don't agree with you because guess what, Joe? In my company, if I owned a company, you're leaving all cultural, social, political issues outside of work. You come to work, you work. What you do outside, yeah, I care about you on a personal level. I wish you weren't gay, okay? However, I do love you, and I'm not going to unjustly discriminate against you, and I want you to be treated fairly. We're well beyond that, Joe. We're dealing with anger here. Florida. Now, again, I want to couch this in what Joe Resinello said. We're not dealing with gay marriage, which is something that most people, not Joe and I, but most people are like, live and let live. You knock yourself out. We're dealing with that's a winner, political winner. We're dealing with the loser issue of transgenderism. But the anger that accompanies that, Joe Resinello, is really what we have to contend with. Florida passed a law banning teachers from talking about sex of children in the 3rd grade and under. Joe, that sounds pretty reasonable, doesn't it? The reasonableness of that demand, all right, according to Bedford, is why, despite a media campaign claiming the legislation was homophobic, the American people broadly support that law. And includes a lot of people who had, as we say, no problem with quote unquote gay rights. Because what they're trying to do, Joe, is they're trying to conflate the two. On the one hand, you say you want me to be tolerant. Okay, I'm tolerant, but I'm not being tolerant of you teaching a 3rd grader or younger this nonsense. And I think, and when you say that, that's where their anger, Joe Resinello, surges out of them. And that's what we have to.
But I'll be honest with you. Again, this is something that could break the teachers union. It very easily break the teachers union. And this is what I mean. Just like what you're seeing in Arizona, there's a charter school that got formed. The more they push on this, people are not going to, if they can, they're not going to subject their kids to it. I'm telling you this right now.
Right.
Even Democrats. And the more it happens, this is one of those things. I'm telling you, it's like the abortion industry. If they were, I'll tell you straight out. If the abortion industry was smart, they would have never, ever followed suit with Cuomo and that radical bill that they pushed. That's what brought this to this place right now. If they just said, listen, you could abort up to 4 months. Afterwards, you can't. It would never be an issue. Ever. No one. Right. But they kept pushing. This is an overplay that's a loser. This could break the teachers union, where you're going to see charter schools. You're going to see people who are qualified to teach, just like it's organic. It's an organic thing, like what you've seen in Catholic schools with the Newman list. It's organically coming up again. A lot of the Catholic schools went left. They frankly abandoned teaching. They're not really faithful. So what happened? These little schools start popping up. That's what's going to happen.
Joe,
if the unions were smart, they would hold back on some of this.
Joe,
it's
let me
too
piggyback
crazy
off
and
that.
over the top.
The unions, as you say all the time, at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo, Joe Resinello, the unions, they're not smart, Joe, because as you say all the time, they're like the politicians. They want power. Now, in Arizona, where I am
sometimes,
now,
Joe, not to interrupt, sometimes in life you have to be smart if you want to keep your power.
Oh, I agree with you.
Every fight, like, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I live in this world, in the corporate world. You gotta You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to be shrewd, or if you want to stay, you try to fight every battle, dude. I got news for you. You wind up losing in the end.
But
And
don't they
this,
do that, Joe? Don't I
they
mean,
do.
look,
But that's why I'm saying this is a loser. It's a
but but
loser.
but here's the thing, Joe. I agree with you 1,000%. Okay, but you're right. You would think that it's loser, and many of the issues that they get behind full throttle. Okay, they're loser issues. They'll even on a federal level, we've seen this, and on the state level too. Those who push this nonsense, they'll even lose. As we mentioned in Virginia, the Democrats lost power in the state of Virginia. Terry McAuliffe was defeated as the governor of Virginia. Let's just take that for example. They'll go into the wilderness for a term or two. You know why? And I really want your response to this, Joe, because then I want to move on in the last part to Father James Martin. I really want your response to this because they know conservatives won't do a damn thing. And they'll spend 4 or 8 years in the wilderness on the state or federal level. They don't care because they know that whatever they put in place might be tweaked a little bit, but what they put in place will stay because
See, Joe,
conservatives
what I would say to
have
that
no
is it doesn't
stones.
matter that conservatives sleep on it. Parents won't. You see, again, it's an apolitical issue. It's apolitical. It's your kids. Like, unless you're crazy. Like, and there are crazy people you hear, I'm going to let my child decide what gender they're going to be. Okay, you're crazy. Good for you. Most people don't. And that's Democrats. I'm talking about rational people. Like, listen, there's a lot of people, Joe, we're Catholic. We take our faith, like, listen, we believe what the church teaches. We speak about what the church teaches. But let's be honest. I told you that's probably only about 8%. It's not even, and I'll tell you this, in all honesty, if I was a political strategist for the Democrats, I don't even care about you. I don't. I could win
Right,
without you. I'm talking about winning. I'm not talking about heaven or hell. I'm talking about here in the
right.
secular world.
Mhm.
I don't care about Joe Resinello. I don't care that he doesn't believe. I don't. But here's the thing on this Democrats, independents decide the election. Dude, they're not for this. They'll never be for this. Parents are not going to roll with this. It's an overplay. If they were smart, they would hedge themselves. It will undo them.
Joe, but here's my question to you. I think you're right. It is a matter of parents, but then the parents are going to exercise their rights as voters, okay, to fight against this. And they're going to vote, let's say, for argument's sake, in the case of Virginia, they're going to vote these people out. They voted out the governor, they voted out the lieutenant governor, they voted out the attorney general, the three most powerful positions in the state. Now, my point to you is I agree with you, Joe Resinello, on the Crusade channel. I agree with you. Okay, that parents they know that this is a loser. You're not doing that to my daughter. In fact, and I would go so far, not that a son couldn't defend himself, but at the end of the day, I don't want a chick in the locker room with my son
No,
either.
it's no
Okay,
place for
at
that.
16,
Dude,
15 years
Joe, that's
old.
crazy. That's what I'm saying. It's like it's craziness. It's just crazy.
Well,
And
here,
I'm
but I want to finish my question to you, Joe. I want to finish my question to you. So let's say, for argument's sake, that happens. These parents in Virginia, they go and they give what they believe to be conservative-minded people who agree with them a victory politically. Okay, and now you have a conservative state government in Virginia. My larger question is, Joe, the parents did react in this case, and you are correct. Their reaction came as far as what they did on election day. But our problem, this was my larger point to you, is that, but on the other hand, when you fight against them by electing people who you think are going to take your back, we have to hope in the case of, I'm using Virginia as an example, we have to hope that those Virginia legislators are going to take the backs of these parents and continue to push on a legislative level. And I think that that's where, as conservatives, on a national level, Joe, on a federal level, and on a state level, we've been let down miserably because we do fight back, Joe. There's a lot of people fighting back. How many pro-life people? We started this conversation about abortion. Joe, how many pro-life people over the course of the last 50 years voted in the Newt Gingriches of the world, the Mike Pences of the world, and everywhere in between that didn't do a damn thing about it?
Joe,
You get
because we've talked about this. They have casual sex too. Like,
I
and
do.
that's the
Well,
truth.
you're right.
The
You're right.
only people, it's the 8%. It's the 8% of Catholics. It's the percentage of Orthodox Jews. It's the percentage of very strict Muslims. Outside of that, to be honest with you, a lot of it is just a point, a political point. They don't live and die by it because they have casual sex. The sexual revolution has won. It has sold itself to the American people. The people who are against abortion vehemently are the ones, frankly, that believe in the teachings of the church. People make mistakes, people fail. Please don't misunderstand me. But at the same time, those are mostly people who live monogamous lives. They're faithful to their wives. They live chaste lives, and they're not for this behavior. Period. End of story. And that's not a large majority of the religious people. There are a lot of people who are religious that are for abortion because, again, it's a small percentage. And that's another conversation for another day.
No, I know, but no, but you're exactly right. But the thing is, but
Let's
I
talk about
used
Martin, dude. I think we gotta.
no, we're good. I just one final point. I think it just I would make to what you were saying is I think that it's very important that what we're hopefully seeing is a little bit more discernment, Joe, on the part of, let's say, conservative voters. If you want to just keep it at a political level, okay, conservative voters who are basically basically being a little bit more discerning when it comes to just pushing the lever for the person the local Republican boss tells you we need to vote for. And I think that that's an important thing to do. This way, you'll have somebody there who, when you fight, they're going to go on ahead and they're going to fight for you. So that was my larger point at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello, we're way in the breach on the Crusade channel, always on air and always online at crusadechannel.com, the last live radio station standing. So let's talk. And I want everybody to know out there, okay, we are unabashedly critical of Father James Martin, and I will go so far as to say this: we're respectfully critical of Father James Martin. I don't find, and we're going to talk about it. Okay, we have a few minutes left. We're going to talk about Father James Martin and the things he says. I don't find him to be altogether respectful of both the church in general and of individual Catholics who support church teaching, particularly in the area of homosexuality, okay, and sodomy. One being the state of same-sex attraction, of course, the other one being the action. And we're going to parse some of his things because he tweeted recently that it is especially, and these are not my words, these are Father James Martin's words, okay, that it is especially important for churches to celebrate gay pride. And I'm going to hand this over to Joe by saying, Joe, I absolutely disagree with his statement. I'm
Let's
handing it
break
over
down
to
his tweets. First of all, what is a pride mass? I don't even know what that is.
you. A what?
Like a pride mass. I've heard that statement. What is
Right,
that?
right.
I don't even know. But let's look at like his tweets because he's very shrewd in his language and I want to kind of dissect it a little bit. He says, "Should Catholics celebrate Pride Month?" The question. He responds with resounding yes. Okay, now let's look at his reasoning. He says, "Since gay pride is a celebration of human dignity, of a group of people who have been for so long treated like dirt." He's talking about two separate things. First and foremost is this: Catholics cannot celebrate Pride Month because homosexuality, let me be very clear, and this is the teaching of the church, is a sin. It is a sin, and Catholics cannot celebrate sinful behavior. However, Catholics do celebrate human dignity. And of course, I will respect your human dignity. Absolutely. The catechism requires it.
Right.
The catechism says homosexuals have to be respected and cannot be discriminated against. And if you're a heterosexual and you do that to a homosexual and you are a Catholic, you are a sinning man or woman. And you should confess it and stop it. That includes being nasty. That includes making fun. That includes using derogatory terms. That includes prohibiting someone from working. That includes from paying them properly. All of it. That's sinful. Now, can a Catholic celebrate Pride Month, which celebrates the lifestyle of an active homosexual? Absolutely not,
No.
Father James Martin. And your explanation is confusing. And that's why he doesn't have press conferences.
Oh,
Dude, I would chew that guy's a million times smarter than me. I would chew him alive. He
Joe
wouldn't last 5 seconds with me, dude.
Joe Resinello, I want to piggyback on that for a second. You are right, by the way. Father James Martin is a very intelligent man. There's no question about it. Joe, on this issue, I'm not a biblical scholar. I'm not a
You don't
scholar
have
of
to be.
canon. No. I'm not a biblical scholar. I'm not a scholar of canon law. Okay. I'm not even a scholar of the catechism. Okay. I know this. I have enough of a sense of the faith, the sensus fidelium. I would have no fear having a conversation with James Martin in front of 10 million people and telling him how he's wrong. And you want to know why? Number one, he's judgmental. Let's get this clear. Let's get this out of the way. All the judgment that he reserves for us, that he says we're judgmental and people like us who support church teaching on this issue, he is the judgmental one. He is the Pharisee. He is the one. He's the Pharisee. And when we go to confession, guys like us and all the good people listening to us out there, when we go to confession and we beat our chest, we are the tax collector. Him and people like him, particularly gay Catholics, are the Pharisee who stand there and they thank God that they don't have our sins, the sins of intolerance, the sins of being unaccepting, okay? Because they don't look. Remember something, Joe, this is Pride Month. And in their pride, you know what they say? Adulterers, yeah, especially like they say gay Catholics, okay? I'm sure adulterers are sinning. I'm sure if you're withholding wages from your workers, you're a sinner. I'm sure if you do all sorts of if you steal, you're a sinner. If you covet your neighbor's goods and wives, you're a sinner. But I'm not a sinner. Don't tell me because I'm attracted to someone of the same sex that I'm a sinner. Joe, that's Pharisaical. And that's the view of Father James Martin. He claims, and again, you're right, Joe, very shrewdly, but he claims, and at the end of the day, he does not think that sodomy is a sin. He does not think that sodomy is a sin. He is the prideful one.
Did he ever say that? In all honesty, I mean, in fairness, I've never
Joe,
read.
Here's the way he ends this article. God wants gay people to accept who they are, the priest declares, and thus believers should also celebrate
No, but
homosexuality.
that's not what he said.
He said that God wants gay people to accept who they are.
No, but again, look at the words. Joe, I accept them as who they are. God loves you as you are, and then he wants you to change.
Well, you just
see, this is the words. Of course, we're supposed to accept them. We have to love them. Dude, listen, calling someone a name is not going to get them in the church.
I agree.
Here's the thing. You have to love them as people, as humans, and treat them with dignity and respect. Of course, that's actually an accurate statement. But I don't accept your behavior. You see, that's where he pulls. That's why I say he's shrewd. He pulls right up against it and then he backs off. That's why he won't have press conferences. Like, dude, this guy is affirming people, if you ask me, in a sinful lifestyle.
Right.
Like, there's a big difference. You see, here's the thing. You want to talk about a pride mass? Everyone's invited to a mass. Whether you're an atheist, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Muslim, whether you're a murderer, whether you're gay, whatever, you're invited in to the mass. You just can't receive. Why? Because you're not in union with the church teaching. You're invited to come in. You could even go up and have a blessing. In fact, I want you there. You just can't receive. That goes for Catholics. Catholics who don't believe in everything. You have to believe in everything. Everything. And then you're in union with the church, i.e., you receive communion. Now, again, that's where he doesn't say the words. You see, that's why, dude, he wouldn't last, that he would never speak with me. I'd rip him to shreds.
Well, Joe, the thing is too, and even just on the level of what the catechism teaches, which of course, remember the German bishops, they're pushing for a change in the teaching and a change in the catechism, what the church actually teaches on the subject. But then, Joe, here's
can't happen and never will. By
All
the
right.
way, my wife
So
read me something tonight. It's
I
funny. She read me a cardinal from Luxembourg who made statements like that and still is there. I have my issue with that. But Joe, that can't, you see, here's the thing. It can't happen. Just like you can't get married, get divorced, and get married again. It can't happen. No one could do that. That's where the media doesn't, even people within the church. Like I would say to such a cardinal, dude, you're supposed to be smart. It can't happen.
right.
Like, like,
But let me I
okay,
want to
please.
go. I want to mention we only have a couple minutes left. So and you're right. But remember that's what they're pushing for. But here's my problem. It's the lack of charity on the part of Father Martin that bothers me. And I'm gonna read a statement, Joe, and then I'm gonna make a comment. I'm gonna kick it over to you, and then we have to end the show in the Crusade channel. He says, quote, "It's especially important for churches to celebrate pride, since a great deal of the rejection and even violence that the LGBTQ community has faced has been motivated by religion, or at least what people think religion teaches," the priest asserts. Now, Joe, here's my issue, Joe. Why is he saying this about us? First of all, I don't care what Muslims do to homosexuals. I'm not a Muslim. I care on a human level. I don't want to see homosexuals getting attacked by anybody. Okay, especially in a level of violence. Okay, why is he bringing it up? I don't see Catholics abusing homosexuals. I don't see them beating homosexuals up in the street. I don't see 10 guys like us walking through the West Village on a Saturday night beating the crap out of homosexuals in the street. I don't see anything like that. And by the way, I haven't seen anything like that for years. Why is Martin accusing us of being violent because we support church teaching
Because he's smart.
on this?
He's smart. And
But
he's
then, Joe,
using
but real quick, and I don't want it, but then he's a liar and he's uncharitable and he's unfair. Okay. And he needs to be called out on that. Joe, I'm going to give you the last word because we only have about a minute left.
He's talking about two separate things. Joe, maybe in the past, it's very possible.
Joe, a very long time ago, but go ahead.
No, but my point is this. I'm not for that. The church is not for that.
That's my point.
He's confusing two subjects. It's very simple, sir. The subject is this: active homosexuality is biblically sinful as well as within the teaching of the church, and it cannot be changed. And affirming someone in that behavior is not charitable. It will never change. It cannot change, just like the teachings of the church cannot change. And here's the deal. His words, it's how he's talking about two separate things. Many of the things he's saying about human rights, I agree with you, sir.
I agree with him too.
However, and here's another thing, invite them to mass. Just say at the mass, just like they do at weddings, just like they do at funeral masses. If you are not in union with the church, you cannot receive the Eucharist. That's it. And in the process, I'll be your friend. I'll talk to you. I won't discriminate against you. I won't call you names. We could talk about anything, but I will tell you the truth. And that is what he should do. Kindly, charitably. And in doing that, you're being a priest. He is a priest. Please don't get me wrong. I disagree because he is ordained and he is a priest of God. With that said, sir, you are not being clear. You are affirming people in their sin, and that is not charitable, nor are you accompanying them to God. You're affirming them by using this, frankly, by using your wordsmithing like a lawyer. And that's not what Christ did. Christ went to the woman at the well. He talked to her, and it was scandalous. But he also told her what she did. And
Joe,
he loved her, and she changed as a result.
Gotta leave. Joe's a great place to end it. We have to leave it there. I'm sorry to cut you off. Thank you all for listening to us at the Frontline with Joe and Joe on the Crusade channel, always on air and always online at crusadechannel.com. The chat room's always open at crusadechannel.com/chat. Please follow Joe and I on social media at the Frontline TV, primarily on YouTube, but Facebook also, and anywhere else you find us. Like, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff. Thank you again for joining us. And remember, until the next time, that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere. We'll talk to you soon.